Well, I'd like to start off by thanking the mayor for coming here today with his wife and child. Lovely to see him and thank him very much. And also the man I'd like to thank is Raymond Fagan and his family for all their kindness here. We've only known them for a short time, but their kindness and to invite us to use this beautiful hall, just so good of them. I'd like to thank all the people who brought motorbikes. There is George Coulter from Dundonald. We have William Artis, and we have Ivor Hatton, and all those who brought bikes here today. I'm supposed to be here to talk about Stanley. Well, Stanley, of course, came here with his father's Harley Davidson and didn't finish the course. But as he said afterwards, it lit the flame of enthusiasm that lasted the rest of his life. And he liked the concept of the big twin. And I think the big Harley eventually got sold and replaced by a car for the family business. But after his debut here at Banbridge and the Banbridge 50 race, it was only 1 year and 9 months later he won the TT at the age of 23. At the age of 19, sorry. At the age of 19, he was the youngest rider ever to win the Isle of Man TT. So he'd gone from that Harley Davidson, the handlebars broken, he never finished the race, and within a year and 9 months, winning the premier motorcycle event in the world. And then he looked back on his Harley Davidson days and he thought he would like another big twin. And there was a man in somewhere about the Dublin area, I think his name was Metcalf, and he owned a Bruff Superior. Stanley wanted a big twin, and the big Bruff Superior ticked all the boxes. And he went, after winning the TT in 1923, that would have been in June, towards the fall of the year, he went to the motorcycle show in Olympia, and he approached George Bruff, says, you know, I'm Stanley Woods, I'm a TT winner, I'd like one of your bikes. Well, George wanted, you have to buy it at full price, and that didn't suit Stanley, so he ferreted around the show, and he suddenly remembered that New Imperial was owned by a man, and the founder was a man called Norman Downs. And Norman Downs, Stanley says, I'd like one of the big twins to race in Ireland only, no class for it in the TT. And Norman said to him, go and see the tradespeople, the people who make the forks, the magnetos, the everything, saddles and all that. Go and see all the tires, go and see them, and whatever they do for you, we'll match it. That wasn't a bad offer. And knowing Stanley, he came back with a very cheap motorcycle. Now the first one he got was 1920, he got it more or less immediately in late 1923. And he brought it to the TT with him in 1924 as a runabout. And he was riding for Cotton at this time. He'd already won the TT for Cotton, so he was entered under Cotton. He had no luck in 24. And one day the Cotton was in getting some sort of repairs during TT practice week, and Stanley decided to take out the 1000cc New Imperial. Now the New Imperial was a big side valve machine, a big side valve V-twin, and he'd take it out and show the boys how to ride. And he put the numbers allocated to him from the junior Cotton onto the big Bruff Superior. He said all was well as far as Ballinaskeagh, but after Ballinaskeagh he realised the error of his ways, and he completed the lap at reduced speed and didn't do that again. He'd finished a big handful on the TT course. He won the Ulster Grand Prix on it, the unlimited class of the Ulster Grand Prix, and he had all sorts of bother right from the start. The petrol tank came apart virtually, and all his friends chewed chewing gum at the pit, so he'd have chewing gum ready every time he came around. He'd have stopped at every lap to get chewing gum put into the petrol tank. So we went back to the show again, and he approached George Bruff again about the Bruff Superior. Didn't want to know. Says, I'm now a TT winner and an Ulster Grand Prix winner. No, you want one, you have the bat. So we're back to Norman Downs again, New Imperial. And he said, I want this. I want webbed forks this time. I want the tank soldered and riveted, petrol tank. And I want one of the new, they use Jap engines, J.A. Presswich, they use Jap engines. I want one of the new overhead valve Jap engines. And they said, we're not fitting it, it doesn't fit into our frame. An overhead valve is always higher an engine than a side valve. So Stanley said to them, would you cut the frame and alter the steering head and what have you, and get it to fit. And this they agreed to do, and it was much better. And he won the Ulster Grand Prix again. And he was looking towards Norton at this time. And the last time he had that bike out, there's a town near Dublin called Donaghbate. It's in North County Dublin, and they had speed trials there. And he went there with that bike to the Donaghbate speed trials in 1926, and then the bike was sold after that there. And then, of course, it was Norton time after that. He entered the TT on an overhead valve Norton, factory job, like, of course, and he won it in 1926. And that year in the Ulster Grand Prix, he broke the frame. Frame breakage was quite common in those days, but in those days, up to about 1926, the race bikes were fitted with standard sports machine frames. And on all the frames in those days were sidecar lugs, and there were sidecar lugs here. Right in there, underneath the petrol tank was a sidecar lug here, and one in the back chainstays. And what they used to do was, what the riders used to do was, the magneto was always in the front of the bike, and they got the high tension wire. Instead of putting it on the spark plug, they threaded it through the hole here for the sidecar lug, down this side and onto the spark plug. So when the frame broke, it cut the engine. You knew you had a broken frame because the engine stopped. So his engine stopped for him, and a reporter said to him afterwards, what happened to you there, Stanley? They weren't allowed to mention the broken frame. He says, my tail light went out. Will you give a hint? There was a sort of an electrical problem somewhere. Well, the HT lead come undone with the broken frame. Well, that led to Norton, and the agent in Dublin, the Norton agent, Dean Allen, he was also a competitor. He recommended Stanley to Norton Motors, and he got his first works rides in 27 with the camshaft jobs. And it was at that race he learned another trick. He learned gunning his bike too hard. He was young, and he was leading Alec Bennett by a minute a lap, and he was also on a Norton. And Stanley's clutch gave out on the 5th lap, and he was 5 minutes ahead of the next man, and he knew he had no reason to be 5 minutes ahead. And he decided to do something about it. And he said, there must be a way of knowing where you are. It's a 38-mile lap. So you've no way, you get no signals remote from the pits. You can't get any. So he thought about it very carefully. And one day he's out walking on the Glasker Road. That's the start and finish area on the Isle of Man. And they're going this way with the course. The pits are on this side. And just down from the pits on the other side, he noticed a 2-story house with telephone lines getting into it. He said, that's the business there. They can, from their top bedrooms, they can see all what's going on. And if I could get them to cooperate with my scheme, that would be great. So they went out to Sulby. There's a picture here of the telephone box at Sulby here. And that's 19 miles out, that's the halfway mark. And that was chosen for that phone box, and they bribed the girls. Excuse me. All telephones, even your telephone across the road, had to go through the operator. So they bribed the operators with boxes of chocolates and run on account. And at Sulby, they opened the line between there and the house, and the Glasker Road, and it had to stay open the whole time. And Stanley would pay the account later. It was only pennies in those days. But the cooperation of the girls in both the Sulby and Glasker Road and Douglas, they keep the lines open for them. So that's how the signals evolved. We have a DVD of him speaking about that there, with this actual. This is the Sulby clock here, and that worked very well. And he says himself on the DVD, he said it gave him a wee bit of an advantage, but he said he wouldn't have won in 1935 on the Guzzi without that. There was only 4 seconds separating him and Jimmy Guthrie, and that went on to, he said to go freelance in 1934, just for financial reasons. He could do better, you know, if he was with Norton, it meant he had to be with Castrol, and Castrol paid £300 a year retainer to the riders. And you see over here, he started off with Mobil Oil at £1,500 a year. It's 5 times the retainer, you know. So it was all for him to. Then he tried to get Velocet interested with difficulty, and they were slow. But eventually, this letter arrived, dated the 27th. It's over there, of the 27th of June 1927, saying Common will develop the bike. He would get his way and get all the improvements that he wanted. And it went on from that to the war. He did ride Moto Guzzi occasionally. He was free to ride Moto Guzzi and to the 250 event if he wanted. And come the 1939, he had a bad accident in 1938 in the Belgian Grand Prix. He lost that index finger. There's evidence over there, and gloves, modified gloves over there. And he was out from late June until May 1939. The first race for him was the Leinster 200, which he won at record speed. And then within a week in the Northwest 200, and he had the worst luck at the Northwest 200. Every year something happened. And they were just waiting on him coming around to win. And they got a telephone call from the Metropole Hotel that says, could you bring me out some petrol? So he had lost that race, but he won the TT, his last TT in 1939, and then the war. And he'd become a serving officer in the Irish Army. And after the war, he had told his wife he had hung up his hat, but he said sticking to it was hard. He was the team manager for Moto Guzzi at the TT in 47, 48 and 49. Freddie Frith, who was an absolute first-class rider and a TT winner and all that, he came off the Guzzi in practice. It wasn't his fault. The brakes locked on him at Ballinaskeagh corner, and Stanley had nobody to take over the bike. And Stanley said, I was so sorely tempted to take over myself. Then he remembered his promise to his wife, and he scratched the entry. But he kept in touch with motorcycles all his life. He was a Guzzi agent in Dublin. He sold this little bike here. I got to know him through spare parts for these bikes, and I travelled with him many times to England and elsewhere, and twice to Italy. Once by road, and the other time when he was a guest of honour at Misano. So, very proud to have done that. Oh, I was thanking people this morning. I never got started. I started off meaning to thank everybody here. And the first one was the Lord Mayor, and I never got past that. And Raymond, his family. Also Joan has worked very, very hard to put this together. Very, very hard. And Joan and Eamon actually sponsored the plaques you just got today. That's why there were no entry fee. So, I'd like a big round of applause for Joan. And John Kidd as well, and Peter Hull for his help in setting up the routes, and everybody else who helped. It's just turned out a wonderful day, and the people who brought the bikes and all that, and the riders. It's been a fabulous turnout. I hope we can do it again. So there we are.
Anything else you want to know?
Oh yeah, anybody got any questions about Stanley Woods? Anything? There must be something that somebody has, some question. Oh, right. I see a family sitting down here, and they're very, very, very old friends of mine. Many years ago in the 30 Club, I met a man called Harry Turner. He was a great Norton enthusiast. He was a great hand with the Nortons as well. And two of his daughters are here today. Frida, put your hand up, Frida. And where's Louise? Louise down at the bottom, and their families. Harry, as a matter of interest, Harry won the first ever Skerries race in 1946. I'm sure the family's very proud of that, Harry winning that race. It comes to mind here, I have a thing, that's the front cover of a programme for the Dublin 100 race, which was held in the Phoenix Park, and they couldn't run it after the war in the Phoenix Park, and they moved to Skerries, and the rest is history. So, we've had many lady riders about today, just the one. Was it you, Frida? Who was it? Who was riding? Many lady riders. One? Three? Oh, three lady riders. And that wonderful, Harry's wonderful ABC out today, that's Harry Turner's son, grandson. So, very pleased to have, proud to have you here today. And as friends over the years, they're just, the family has carried on with the motorcycles, the Marsdens and the Stitts have carried on the tradition of their grandfather.
Did
So,
you mention the sidecar outfit?
oh, the wonderful Indian outside, the wonderful Indian. I forgot about that, the wonderful Indian of Ian Boyd. Yes, so many people to thank, and you know. Any questions about Stanley Woods? Not a question. No.
Because they're scared you know it all.
What brought Stanley to live in County Down?
Well, Stanley's wife Mildred was a northerner anyway. She was born in Canada along with her sister Nora. Their father, they were Belfast people, and somehow they're all along the line. They live in Canada. Mildred Mildred and Nora were born in Canada, and they came to live in Dublin for a while after they come back. And it was in the mid-30s that Stanley married her. Mildred was his second wife, you know. And he married a French woman. He was able to get divorced in Paris. He flew to Paris and got divorced, and that was it. Cost him £1,000. It was serious money. And he and Mildred were very happy. But Mildred, when his business, he sold the business in 1966 along with his partner, Gordon Burney. 66. Nora's family all lived in Northern Ireland, Darragh Avenue, and she wanted to be with her sister and their family. Stanley and Mildred had no family, so they bought that farmhouse in Menderstown. And there were no strangers in Northern Ireland, so there we are. Any more?
Yeah, but I was trying to think of makes of bike that Stanley wasn't associated with.
Makes?
And I was thinking, what could I bring today? I thought I would have a look in the book and have a Royal Enfield, and I thought, right, I'll bring that. So I noticed in the book that, was it
25.
27?
25. He was riding for Norton in 27, but in 1925 he's entered in the junior and a Royal Enfield.
Yeah, I think
And that's the one.
quote from your book is lovely bikes, but not very fast.
That's the one. Is that the one that he lost half a handlebar? There's one bike he lost half a handlebar and he continued on, and the marshals checked him at Ramsey, and he didn't stop, and he was younger then, and the road cordoned off at Craignabath to stop him. I think that's the one that broke, and he dropped that bike and she got a broken handlebar, and he went on with the other half. He moved the controls over to the good half, carried on.
He also rode the bike back, the one from the Banbridge, he rode it back to Dublin.
Oh, aye, he rode back to Dublin. I'll tell you what he rode one time. He used to get a bike every year from Danfay Distributors in Dublin to go to the TT on. And they would have insured him and lent him a brand new Yamaha of his choice. Now, one year he would always say, give me one electric starter. That was hard in those days. So he got a 200 Yamaha one time with electric starter, and they said, look, we're very, very busy. you'll have to come to Dublin to collect it. And he thumbed a lift. Somebody gave him a lift in Uri from his home in Manorstown, and he thumbed a lift, and he was late 70s at this time, and he thumbed a lift and he got into a cattle truck, and they took him to Dublin. And he said he went into a bar and got a quick gin and tonic and took a bus across Dublin to Danfez. They gave him the bike, and all he was wearing was the coat of his trial suit, jeans, and he wore shoes called Wallabies, and his wee orange crash on it. And he rode that bike from Dublin to Manorstown just to have it. And he wrote me a lovely letter, and I lent it to a journalist, Mick Willett, and I never got it back. So there we are.
Exceptional man.
Right, so that's it. Thank you all for listening.